What's going on? Welcome to the Viral Talentz podcast. I'm Chaz, he's Saint, and you're watching America DFS Podcast Network.
Let's go.
Tonight we're going to be breaking down, I believe it's going to be the Wednesday morning, April 14th, Counter-Strike Global Offensive Slate. It features 3 matches and begins at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Who do we have going on tomorrow? I believe our first matchup is Spirit versus Extra Salt. Then we got Gambit versus Nazar or NASR. And then we got another matchup with Furia versus MIBR, our South American teams. Before we get the slate kicked off, we're going to do a little bit of a recap of today's surprising slate. I think we were all pretty surprised on how the slate transpired today, and definitely want to take accountability and responsibility for that. But before we get kicked off, how's your night going, Saint? What's going on in your world?
It's good, man. Just, relaxing. Just been playing a lot of MLB. We've had so many slates, even early slates. I don't even know what to do with myself. Been trying to stack my Cubs the past couple days, but can't even do that because they have the worst batting average in MLB. Probably history so far, so that's disgusting to even say. I should probably even be wearing this Cubs hat, to be honest, because it's probably embarrassing, but I'm die hard, and we're going to roll with it. So no matter what, all these hot teams, they'll go through a streaky phase, so hopefully they can turn things around, eventually. Or it's either we're going to be trading Rizzo, Brian, Baez, all these guys, at the trade deadline. Something's going to happen if they continue.
Yeah.
But not much, man. Just nice, relaxing. Just been chilling and looking forward to the slate tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely ready to retire today's slate and get into tomorrow. I suppose before we do, we'll do a little bit of a recap. So we talked about the OG Astralis matchup. We were more on the Astralis side. OG came out dominant and swept Astralis. And so really, in my mind, I seen this angle. We talked about the angle on the podcast, although we were on the Astralis side. OG had all month to really, practice and get ready for this matchup. They made some new additions with the Nico and Flames on their team. And obviously, Astralis has been having some troubles, and we've seen that in the ESL tournament. And there are some articles on HLTV with Device kind of speaking to that, and individually them needing to get better and holding each other accountable and things like that. So that was interesting to see. You would liked it to have been at least a little bit closer, but it wasn't totally out of left field from my perspective. G2 came out dominantly with Endpoint. My bad. Were you going to say something?
Nope, you're good.
Oh, okay. G2 came out versus Endpoint and put it down on them, swept them. Could see that happening. Obviously, Flames not being on the Endpoint team makes all the difference. I don't know that even with Flames on that team, they would have won this matchup, but still you would like to see them at least win a map or, hold this G2 team a little bit closer. But I guess that really kind of gives us the understanding of how important a teammate like Flames is, and you see that on the OG squad, and you've seen that in the past with the Endpoint team. And then you had Liquid come out versus Dignitas, and they got swept actually by Dignitas, and that was probably the biggest surprise for me personally out of today's slate. I don't know if something's going on with this Liquid team right now, or underlying issues that we can't see or we don't know about. Stewie, he tweeted out and was kind of more laughingly like, hey, yeah, they got the better of us today, and it is what it is type of thing. And so he was more kind of like whatever about it. But my point is it was kind of crazy that Dignitas came out and swept this team. Didn't expect to see that. I don't know if that's more of a dominant statement for this Dignitas team. There was an article on HLTV, Forrest, talking about he really likes where this team's at, and he likes the noise that they can make this year on the scene. So maybe it's Dignitas just coming out, making a strong statement that they're here to play some good CSGO for the year. I don't know. That was kind of crazy to me. Any thoughts you had?
No, I know I took a stand last night and I said, hey, this is what I think. Usually I go with the losing team. Yesterday, I kind of flipped it around, said Team Liquid was going to win. I was super heavy on them just because of the way they've been playing. And, of course, I go against what I usually do, and it just goes upside down. But I had to at one point, especially yesterday. I mean, when the losing team's supposed to lose, they always win, and it continues to be that way. I don't know what it is. It must be the CSGO gods or whatever they have going on, but it's just every game, and it seems like it's 8 out of 10 times now. And so it just blows my mind that a lot of people don't, go that route or play that route anymore. But unless you're making 150 lines, then you can. So I'm just excited to see what happens tomorrow with Spirit and Gambit, see if they continue, their dominant performances going into this tournament. And I've never seen this Extra Salt team play or NASR play, so that'll be definitely interesting. I'm excited to see how they play, just because I've never seen them, like I said, but I'm ready to break down the slate.
Yeah, so let's get into it. We got this first matchup, Spirit versus Extra Salt. So the last time that we seen the Spirit team play, they were out a week ago versus Gambit. They lost in 3 maps versus this Gambit squad. Outside of the Gambit win, they've been playing a lot of Tier 2 competition, dominating. Prior to that, they were in the ESL tournaments, lost or got swept by Gambit, but they got a good win versus Astralis, swept Heroic, got a good win versus G2, and also swept Big. So this is one of those top-notch teams. I do believe that they are more of a top 5 team. I think that they're going to come out and get the win for sure tomorrow in this matchup. It's just a matter of, does this go 2 games or does this go 3 games? They are playing an Extra Salt team that is playing some pretty good CSGO as well. The big problem is that this Extra Salt team has not played one Tier 1 team yet this year, I don't believe, or none that I can actually see. And they are taking some losses to some of these Tier 2 teams. I wouldn't say consistently. For the most part, they're actually dominating this Tier 2 scene here in North America. But with that being said, the biggest concern that I have is this is a bump up of competition, and I'm not sure that they're ready. They do have a lot of players that have been on the scene for a while: Sonic, OC, Fane, even Markey. So from my perspective, they have the players that understand how to play Tier 1 competition and have been around for a while. It's just a question of, this matchup they have tomorrow with Spirit, is it just too much of an upgrade? I mean, this Spirit team is dominant. Like I said, they're more top 5 versus this Extra Salt team. They got a 21-20 ranking. I think they might be top 20 in the world. That might be correct. But I'm more on the Spirit side of things. I like Dexter. I like Mir. I think you can go with an SDY. I think you can go with the Chopper. I think you can go with the Magics, all in sweeps, rotate between those 3 different players. I think they're all viable. I think I would probably start with maybe an SDY. But in the case that Extra Salt does come out and get a map win, maybe you want to focus on the Fang, OC, Sonic on the other side of things. I don't know that you're going to want to with the matchups that we have later on this slate. I think that there's definitely going to be some other sweeps, so maybe you don't want to focus on anyone on this Extra Salt side. But they do play Train very, very well. They have a 92% winning percentage. Keep in mind they play a lot of Tier 2 competition, so I don't know how much that means when they're playing a team like Spirit. But again, I think it's an interesting matchup. Overall, I do think Spirit come out and win this. Again, I think it's just a question of, does it go 2 games? Does it go 3 games? Ultimately, I think it probably will go 2 games, but it definitely wouldn't surprise me if Extra Salt was able to get a map.
Yeah. Looking at it, man, this Extra Salt team looks pretty dominant. I mean, they've lost 3 games out of probably, 15? Maybe or 20 or something like that. And they're just blowing through people like it's nothing. And so I'm excited to see what happens tomorrow. There's just nothing I could do to go against this Spirit team. Just the way they've been playing, the teams that they've beaten. I mean, they beat some big teams, as in Heroic, Astralis, Big, G2. And the reason I'm on their side is just because I've seen them in Tier 1 competition. I haven't seen Extra Salt play in Tier 1. Personally, obviously, North America side of things, they're pretty dominant, and that's probably why they're moving up, and people are seeing that and recognizing it. And the thing is, man, this extra salt team, I mean, every map they're super dominant on. So, like, I don't know what's going to happen. 100%, 80, 92, 93, 60, 62. Mirage is only a weak map. They've only played it twice. But, I mean, they look pretty solid across the board when it comes to map selection, even overall maps. And so it doesn't look like they really have a weakness. Now, maybe they'll have a weakness coming into Tier 1, you know, but these guys have been playing together for a while now. So I'm excited to see what happens. I could see it going 3 games. I just don't see Spirit losing. I just don't. And when it comes to pricing, it's loading right now. So if you wanted to bring something else up until it loads, or
Yeah,
talk about
one concept that I think about is, again, in past tournaments, we see these teams that look pretty dominant, have high overall individual ratings, have really good records, come in. They've been playing predominantly Tier 2 competition, and then they come into, you know, the Tier 1 scene, and it's a little bit of a different story. Specifically, we've seen that with the Australian League, right? Endpoint was a little bit of different story based off of having Flames on that team. Now that they don't have Flames, you kind of seen that same thing today with G2. So my biggest thing is I don't want to, you know, amp up too much some of these Tier 2 teams, but one thing I do think is important that you brought up is around this extra salt team. The individual ratings that you see with this team, they might be actually seriously legit, because a lot of these players have been around. I played with a lot of these players last year on the Tier 1 scene, so I don't know. It's tough to really say, but again, I think it's really more of a question of, do they win a map or not really a question of do they win or not.
Yeah, so with pricing, I finally loaded. For Spirit side of things, Dexter, you got at 9,600, Mir at 86, Sadie at 8,000, Magic's at 7,000, and Chopper at 6,000, which is pretty solid across the board for their pricing. I like that a ton. And on the other side of things, extra salt, you have Sonic at 6,200, OC at 6,200, Fang at 56, Marquis at 5,000, and JT at 4,600. So, I mean, their pricing is very, very cheap. And like I said, this can be a game that is either going to surprise a lot of people, or just it's going to be one of those things where Spirit come out and dominate. But I don't see it. I think it's going to be closer than what people really think. And so just because of map selection and, you know, the win percentages, like, no matter who they played, you can go through the whole entire list. They just don't lose. You know, it's 70% or more. So I'm excited to see what happens tomorrow, but I still got Spirit, and I think it's going to go 3 games, Spirit side.
Yeah, the extra side salt, they, from a pricing perspective, super cheap. You know, if this is a really close series, you know, Spirit wins 16-14 one map, extra salt comes out and wins the map, and then Spirit wins another close map. Now all of a sudden, it's realistic that you want, you know, one of these extra salt guys based off of pricing. But on the other side of things, you got Gambit on this slate. You know, you got Fury on this slate. If both those teams come out and sweep or something, now all of a sudden, how valuable is an extra salt guy? Still could be, because they're so cheap, but I don't know. I just want to bring up all the different angles and concepts to think about when it comes to play for this matchup. But overall, Dexter, 9,600, that's not too bad. Like Mir, like SDY. Ultimately, though, if I'm going to play for a sweep, like Magic's and Chopper's pricing, I think one of those players has the opportunity to have a valuable score for the pricing that they have.
Yeah.
So this next matchup, we got Gambit versus NASR. To be quite honest, I haven't heard too much of this NASR team. I believe they're more on the Tier 2 side of the things as far as playing. They look to be okay, but I do see that they're losing to some of these Tier 2 teams. Specifically, they did lose, I guess at this point it would have been almost 3 months ago at the start of the new year, but they got swept by Endpoint. And, you know, we are familiar with the Endpoint team, and so the idea that they got swept, it was the beginning of the year. That was about 3 months ago. That might not mean a whole lot. But a month ago, they did also lose to another Tier 2 squad, and then they came out in the best of three 3 weeks ago and swept that team again. So I don't know. Really what I'm trying to bring up to you when I bring all those different statistics and just points up is there's not a lot of information to really go off of with NASR other than they're a Tier 2 team predominantly. And the teams that they're winning against, we would hope and expect, but the teams that they're losing against, unless they're Tier 1, it's not really giving us much confidence to want to go in their corner. They don't have a lot of Counter-Strike play this year. I mean, the last time they played was 3 weeks ago, and then they played 4 or 5 games, and their last, and their sixth game was, 3 months ago. So it doesn't look like they're playing a lot of official games, and they're probably doing more practice than anything. Either way, they're playing Gambit. We all know how dominant Gambit is right now. They're currently ranked number 1. I think it's pretty easy to say that Gambit's going to come out and sweep this team. I guess it is possible that, maybe this NASR team comes out and wins the map, but I can't see it. They play Dust 2 pretty well, winning 75% of the time, where Gambit wins 58% of the time. So, I don't know, maybe they hold Dust 2 pretty close, but I'm on the Gambit side heavy. I think this is a sweep. I love Shiro. I love Hobbit. I love Axel. When it comes to sweeps, sometimes you want to rotate between Nafany and maybe like a Hobbit. But right now, I think it's pretty tough to get away from Hobbit, Axel, or Shiro in this specific matchup. But again, I think that it's plausible to rotate between all 5 of these different players or all 4 of them. Maybe stay away from Inners from a sweep perspective, because while he is going to be the cheapest guy, I don't know that the score he's going to put up is going to be competitive versus some of these other scores and sweeps. On the other side of things, I think I'm going to stay away, and it's pretty straightforward for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think it's common sense when it comes to this. I'm not bashing NASR, but you have a Gambit team that's number 1 in the world. You have a Tier 2 team that's coming into Tier 1 playing the best team in all of CSGO. And
they're ranked 135th also, by the way.
So, I mean, this is one of those things where it's kind of like University of Alabama football team playing, a JUCO team or, a Division II team that's transferring in and moving into the D1 level. So it's just one of those things. That's my comparison for tomorrow. Like I said, NASR, I don't know of them. I'm not trying to bash them at all, but for me, it's just common sense when it comes across. With Gambit being number 1 in the world, I think it's an easy 2-0 for them. Or it can go the other way, and they may have trouble. I don't see that happening, but like I said, my flag plan tomorrow, I'm just going to get it right now, is Shiro. I mean, I think he's going to put up a crazy number tomorrow from this Gambit team. I love Hobbit. I love Nafani. I like this whole team, and I think you can do a 3-stack with any of these guys, mix and match. Do you have anything else to say on top of that? But I was
just going to say, what's the pricing?
Oh, yeah, the pricing's pretty good.
Because I think a good conversation is, that pricing versus Spirit versus Furia.
Yeah.
I would guess Gambit's probably going to be the most expensive, but maybe I'm wrong.
You're right. So you got Shiro at 10,800 in the flex. You have
that. Okay, so let's stop there real quick. I don't mean to interrupt you, but 10,800. I don't know that I've seen anybody that expensive. I don't know that Zywoo's ever been that expensive. I don't know that Simple's ever been that expensive. 10,800, that's pretty crazy.
I think that's setting a record. I've never seen something like that in the flex.
And okay, yeah, exactly. So my point there is, at 10,800, that almost kicks Shiro to unplayable. He'll give you, 60, 70. Maybe he gives you 80 points tomorrow, but this matchup is pretty easy. I don't know that he's going to be stretched to give you, that many kills, and it's going to be that competitive to where he even has that type of upside. I guess potentially maybe he does if he gets all the kills from his team. But at 10,800, you need him to for sure get you in the 80s for fantasy points. And I guess if you're going to play him in your lineup, just be confident that he's for sure getting you 80-something points, 90-something points. What's the other guys?
Axel at 10,000.
Axel's 10,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my! Oh my gosh! Can you go through? Can you go through their box scores for the
Yeah.
last? I mean, for both those guys.
Yep. So let's see here. So the last series that they played, it looks like he had 146 fantasy points.
Well, what you have to consider is that's a best of 5.
Yeah, so I broke it. It's loading right now, but here goes the ESL tournament. So he put up 146, 75, 73, 80, 89, 70, 89, 70, and then 100. So
okay, so he's getting you between 70 and 89 points. Round that out, roughly he's giving you about 78 to 80 points, right? And what you just highlighted there, excluding the best of 5, that last game they played in the ESL tournament.
Yeah.
So at $10,000, if he's going to give you 80 points, are you talking about, is that Shiro or is that Axel?
Shiro.
Okay, so at 10,800, 80 points. I don't know if he's paying it off. I don't know. I mean, 10,800, that's a lot that you're giving up for 80 points. I mean, maybe you're okay with that, but I think I almost want 85, 90 points at 10,800. But maybe I'm wrong.
And then Axel, actually, he put up 103, 71, 101, 74, 105, 78, 69, 77, and 97.
So Axel's giving you between 75 points and 100 points, essentially.
Yeah.
At 10,000, he's playing like Zaiwu, like that. Yeah, I mean that. At 10,000, I'm more likely to play him, knowing that minimum I'm going to get 69, 70 points. Maximum I'm going to get 100, 105.
Yep. And then
he's more likely to play.
Yeah, and then you have Hobbit at 8,800, Nafani at 7,800, and Enters at 6,400. And then NASR, you got Realize at 52, Boros at 48, Gedge at 44, Dementor at 4,200, and then Baibu at 4,000. So they're reasonable. I mean, they're cheap, of course.
Yeah, they're cheap. So the other piece I'd bring up is Nafany 76 or 74, whatever you said. I mean, he's getting to be too expensive for that price for the score that he's probably going to give you. I guess at his upside, in his best games at that price, that's okay. Yeah. Hobbit at 88, that's getting pretty expensive. 88, you definitely need 75 points, 70 points from Hobbit. He's definitely capable of that, but he's more likely to give you 65, 68. Run through his box scores in the excluding the best of 5.
And who was it for Hobbit?
Yeah.
Yeah, Hobbit. So you had Hobbit at, I'm not even going to include the 5 game because it was at 117, but other than that, you had 58, 63, 69, 65, 89, 66, and 60.
Yeah, so more times than not, Hobbit scores in those 60s. That's not going to cut it at 8,800. You need more of the 70s. So honestly, when I look at this Gambit squad, while I'm convinced that they're going to come out, I'm glad we broke down pricing. They're going to probably come out and win, get the sweep. The only players that that you're really looking at is maybe an Enters at 6,400. I like Axel if he's for sure going to give me the 70, which I'm pretty confident in that. Upside for 100. Shiro's priced out. I mean, he has to for sure give you 70, 75 to even be even close to value. I mean, you really want 80, 90 from him. So, I mean, I'm just going to take a stand and say that, from this gaming squad, based off pricing, I'm probably really just looking at Axel and maybe an Enters, maybe a Nafany sometimes.
Yeah, I agree.
Shiro's not bad. I just think that if you're playing Shiro, then you definitely got to be like on this extra salt side, or you got to be on this MIBR side, because what you're saying is you're gonna have to make up that. You're gonna have to play some cheap guys,
Yep.
and extra Saul guys are cheap. I'm sure MIBR guys are cheap, but that's the only way that's gonna work.
Yep. Exactly.
All right. Anything else you got on this one, or we
Nope.
good to move on?
Nope.
Okay. So this next matchup, we got Furia versus MIBR. These are both of these are the South American teams playing. They played prior on the 21st of March. Furia won pretty dominantly in that ESL tournament, winning 16-8 on Inferno, 16-8 on Overpass. I liked what I seen from Furia on Overpass. I know they've only played it 16 times and won 33% of the time, but we know that this team plays best when Art is performing best, and I like how he plays that map. I seen him play Astralis and a couple other teams on this map, and I was blown away how good he plays it. So I say that because I think that there's a good probability that this is in the map selection tomorrow, as well as a map like Mirage, maybe even Inferno. And so when I look at that, they play Mirage pretty close. They play Overpass pretty close. Furia is pretty dominant on Inferno. So, the only chances that I see MIBR having, as it relates to winning a map tomorrow is on Overpass or on Mirage. I really don't think they have a chance on Overpass. It's probably truly on Mirage. So with that being said, again, this matchup comes down to a question of, does it go 2 maps or does it go 3 maps? I think that Furia is pretty dominant, is going to come out and win this matchup. I love the idea of using Quesarado. I think he's probably my flag plant, just based off of pricing. I don't know what his price is yet, but typically he's priced pretty well. And when they get wins or even when they get sweeps, he gives you good scores. So I'm pretty confident in him. I like what I was seeing out of Yuri. He seems like he's starting to step up a little bit. Art's in form. Junior's stepping up a lot as well. I liked a couple clutches that I've seen out of him from that ESL tournament. So I like how he's starting to formulate in this lineup. On this other side, we got MIBR. You know that they're trying to just get more acclimated to this Tier 1 scene. This was a perfect example of what we talked about earlier, where this MIBR team was something that looked dominant at the start of the year because of how much Tier 2 teams they played and how well they were doing. And then they got on this Tier 1 squad or Tier 1 scene, and they've been a little bit just tripped up a little bit. They haven't been the most consistent team, right? But then you go through their playing, and at the same time, they're not consistently even beating Tier 2 competition. You see that they're losing to some liquid squads pretty dominantly, but then they went off to lose to like a Havu. They lost to 100 PG, Copenhagen, or they beat 100 PG, but they lost to Copenhagen Flames. So overall, this MIBR team, is pretty inconsistent. Wouldn't surprise me if, they took a map tomorrow, but I don't expect them to win this. I honestly think that Furia should come out and probably sweep this team pretty easily. If I had to guess, I think Gambit and Furia get the sweeps tomorrow. I think also when I rank it, though, Extra Salt, then MIBR have most of the opportunity to get a map tomorrow. I'm going to turn it over to you. Maybe you can get into kind of your idea of how things will go and some pricing. But overall, I do like the Furia side. I think that, in a sweep, you can go with Quesarado, Vinny, Art. Yuri's been taking a step back a little bit and kind of letting Vinny and Art take on more of the momentum. But Yuri's a good play when when the opposite team maybe wins a map or is a little bit more competitive. So just depending on how you see this storyline going tomorrow, maybe play Yuri in a more competitive match, play Art and Vinny and Quesarado when it's more of a dominant performance on that squad. Junior is always super cheap, and I like that. And he seems to be coming on a little bit better, so he might be in my lineup as well.
Yeah, I like everything you had to say. I really like Furia. I think they are the favorites for sure tomorrow, and they should be. This MIBR team, we've heard this team speak, and they've been trying to figure things out for the past couple months now, and just trying to transition to a different gameplay, different style that works for everybody. So it's just a lot of mix and match with these guys. Sometimes they come out and dominate, and some games they, get swept 0-2, just like that. Everyone knows how I play showdowns. I start with the showdown. I like using the losing team. Tomorrow, I don't know. Yesterday I went Team Liquid, and we saw what happened with that with Dignitas, beating them. I'm going to take a stand again for the second day. Everyone knows I like picking the losing team, but I'm going with Furia tomorrow. I think they do have the team to beat this MIBR team. I love Serato. I think he's the best play for me tomorrow overall from this game alone. And then other than that would be Yuri and Art. And then Vinny would be tied with Art for me personally. These lower end guys from, if you want to call them lower end, Vinny and Art, they've been dominating. I mean, these past couple tournaments. I mean, they look super good. And it's either been a Yuri Art Vinny or a Serato Art Vinny. I mean, these guys have been picking up everything, and it's just making this team look so good across the board. And I don't see that change tomorrow at all. I think Art, he's amazing captain play, I think, too. Just for some savings if you do want to fit some of these other expensive guys in, or even a Vinny. I mean, it's not going to hurt you to have these guys. But across the board, I do think Fury will come out and sweep them tomorrow. I think it's going to be a 2-0. I don't see MRBR holding the chance just with everything that's going on with that team until they prove me wrong or different. And maybe it is tomorrow just because it's a showdown. I would really focus on this Furia team because their salaries are amazing for tomorrow. I mean, it's unreal. And I'm probably going to start my builds with Furia. So you have KS Serato at 9,400, which is absolutely amazing. Yuri at 84, Art at 76, Vinny at 64, and Junior at 5,800. So these are guys that you really want to dig deep into and probably start your builds with, to be honest, and work your way around to these other teams. Like I said, I wouldn't mind people starting with maybe a Vinny in the captain spot or a Art just for some savings because you are going to want some of these other guys from Gambit and Spirit probably on your team. So just be aware of that. And then on MIBR side, you have Exit at 74, Cello at 68, Yell at 66, Bolt 6,000, and SAG at 54. They are a little more expensive as an underdog, but it's gonna be a hard fade for me, and it's gonna be a deep GPP play. I mean, it's gonna be my last resort, probably behind NASR even. So, other than that, I like Furia tomorrow. I think I look for them to come out and dominate 2-0 tomorrow, and yeah, that's where my builds are probably gonna start is with this Furia team.
Yeah, the last time that these two teams played, Art came out with 46 kills, 26 deaths. K Serato had 38 kills, 22 deaths. And Vinny had 37 kills, 25 deaths. So you had a plus 20 kill-death ratio for Art, plus 12 kill-death ratio for Vinny, and a plus 16 kill-death ratio for K Serato. So just based off of pricing, love Art, love Vinny tomorrow, love K Serato. But I probably would be focused on Vinny and Art, and maybe even a Junior. And you can't go wrong with Yuri. I don't know. It's tough. Yuri's at 8,400. I think I'm more likely to focus on Junior, Vinny, Art. And that would probably where I'd be kind of focused on, knowing that, K Serato's going to give you a good score. Yuri's going to give you a good score, but maybe I'm trying to get up to the Dakesters. I want to play the Mears. I want to play the Axels, right? So if I want to play those guys, then, maybe that's where I'm getting away from the K Seratos. That's my overall thought of it from a lineup construction standpoint. I do like the idea of playing three of these guys, especially in a sweep scenario. Overall, I think you got some good pricing for Furia. What's the pricing on MIBR?
Yeah, so MIBR, you have Exit at 7,400, Cello at 68, Yell at 66, Bolt 6,000, SHZ at 54. So, I mean, the underdog, they're the most expensive underdog tomorrow. That's a hard fade for me, like I said earlier. It's probably going to be a deep GPP play if I'm throwing any of those lines on there, just because they're pricing. I don't like it. I don't see them coming out and beating Furia. But you never know with these showdowns, like I said. Usually the losing team finds a way to win each and every showdown. So don't be surprised, but I just don't see it happening tomorrow. I just don't see Furia allowing them to lose to a dismantled MIBR team that's still trying to figure things out. So
Yeah, I hear you there. As far as my plays for tomorrow, I think in the optimal lineup, you're going to want to have Axel. You're going to want to have Art. I think those two players are going to be really crucial. I also like the idea of Vinny as well. From a flag plant standpoint, it's pretty tough. Vinny's pricing is very appealing. It's tough not to want to be on Vinny. Overall, though, I think that I'm more going to say Art just based off of pricing in the 7K range. Again, Axel's pretty expensive at 10,000, but I do like him a lot. I think he has a good opportunity to give you 80, 70-something points, maybe even in the 90s. On the other side, Spirit, that game's going to be interesting to break down between Dagster and Mir and who really performs out of those two. Really like Dagster, but they are playing an extra salt team that you can't be taken lightly. So, who's to say that maybe one of those guys on the extra salt team goes crazy, and at their price, you're going to definitely want one of those guys in the optimal. So there's a lot to think about, but I think we did a good job breaking it down. From a lineup construction standpoint, I don't think that it's going to be a 3-3 tomorrow. I think it's going to be a 3-2-1 or a 3 – maybe it could be even a 2-2-2. But it's probably going to be, in my mind, a 3-2-1.
Yeah, I was actually pulling something up that I used to do with RotoWire, just to see what their lineup construction was, just because it's very interesting the way they come out with their lineup constructions. And typically what they do is they always have one of those underdog teams that they kind of fall on. And I'm sure you know that too, but I have it pulled up right here. And they have Shiro as number 1, across the board, right? And so that being said, their top optimal lineup is projected 451.6, and that's with only one Gambit player. That's Shiro in the captain spot, 1 Spirit player in Dexter, 2 MIBR guys in Yell and SHZ, and then 2 extra salt guys, Fang and OC. So, like I said, it's very interesting on the way they optimize their stuff, right? So, and that's just their top optimal line at 451.6 projected. So,
well, how many fantasy points do they see? Fang and or not Fang and OC, but Yell and SHZ getting you?
So they have Yell projecting 58.5, and SHZ projecting 59.
Okay, so basically what they're saying is it's going to go 3 maps.
Yep.
It's going to go 3 maps, and it's going to be a close series overall. I could see that, but I can't see that. Just look at just go through box scores between Yell and SHZ on DraftKings, and look at their 3 maps performances, and you'll notice even in their 3 maps performances, how often are they giving you 58, 59 points?
Yeah. So I just wanted to throw it out there because I thought it was really interesting. Because, we have our stuff that we break down is very good, right? And people that listen, it's pretty good information. So, but it's just
to build on that, yeah.
Yeah, it's just interesting when you have, these optimizers that, you can just lock one guy in and optimize and see what happens, right? And the layout that they have, or their mathematics and statistic breakdown on average and all that, they have, 2 guys from MIBR and then 2 extra salt guys that are projected 63.3 and 60.6. And
that's what I was going to say. Those guys in 3 maps, first of all, those scores, it almost seems like they're going to sweep the Spirit squad if they're getting mid-60s, but neither here nor there. In 3 maps, if they're going to give you 60, mid-60s, that's great. I can see that more likely than the Yell and SHZ, but who knows? Maybe I'm off there.
Me, if I'm looking at this lineup, that's a deep GPP, to the max, and that's just my mindset. because I'm the complete opposite on what I think is going to happen, right? So, and you're on the same.
SHG, one thing I will say is SHG had 32 kills and 33 deaths the last time they played, which is basically a -1 kill death ratio.
Yeah.
So, and that was a sweep, right? So that's not bad. He probably did give you close to 50-something points in a sweep.
Right.
And obviously, if they're going to win a map, it's going to be off his back tomorrow. So I think that he's more likely to give you 58 to 65 points if it goes 3 maps tomorrow, which at his pricing at 70-something, I mean, I don't know if I'd want to play him, but maybe it's worth it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, think about who's in his range. You got Art, you got Nafany. I mean, I don't know. There's just some other guys that I'd be more likely to want to play that should give you a better score.
Yeah, and they're projecting Shiro in the cap spot 138 points. So, like, they're super, I don't know what it is, but it's super heavy on that. So, I don't know.
So they're projecting about 90-something points.
Yeah.
They're projecting 90-something points in the flex, essentially, and that's a pretty big score for Shiro. Look at his boxers. We went through them already, and when was he giving you 90-something points? I don't think you even said that one time.
Here and there. But nothing.
No, but I get it, and from me, overall, what I feel from that is you know they want to get Shiro in the lineup, so then you got to play those guys. In my mind, I almost don't want to play Shiro tomorrow. I think he's a great player, and I think that he's going to give you a good score, but for $10,800 on DraftKings, I don't know that the score is going to be nearly enough of what you need. Like you need 90-something points tomorrow, and the team that they're playing is going to be crazy easy, but I don't know that he's going to need to give you that type of performance to move on.
No, I agree. I agree with everything you got to say. So.
All right, well, we can go ahead and close this down. Hopefully this is valuable. A long podcast tonight. We gave you a long podcast yesterday as well, just trying to give you some real good information. This is the last 3-game slate. I believe after tomorrow or after today we get – maybe tomorrow this is a 3-game slate. But it's going to be concluding here pretty quick, and we'll get into some 2 games for the Snow Showdown. So be on the lookout for us tomorrow. Appreciate all the support, all the comments, all those type of things. We'll check you out tomorrow evening. Make sure that you post in Discord or comment chat if you have any winning lineups or if we can help out in any way. Have a good night.